Hello everybody, my name is Kevin and this is Kev in the Making. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. On this channel we talk about all kinds of things, all sorts of hobbies that I'm into, and there are several. In the past, in my previous videos, I kind of lumped all those things into one video. And talked about, fragrance and knitting and gardening and all those things. And I think that for the viewers going forward, it would be a lot easier if I just did separate videos for each of those topics. And so that is my plan from here on out. Today, the focus will be on knitting. And for this particular video, I will be going through a few of my knitting updates. So a lot of time has passed since my previous video, which means that there is a lot to go through, which is a good thing. I want to share all these things with you, so let's jump right into it. So let's kick off this video with some updates on finished objects, of which I have 3 to share. The first is the In Stillness 2 sweater by Alicia Plummer, and this is one that I knit up for my husband Louis. So it was a gift knit, and it was a really fun knit to do, actually. I was looking for a raglan sweater, and this was one that I had in my favorites on Ravelry for some time. I was particularly drawn to the texture here on the yoke section that I really like. It was super fun to knit up because of this detail. It gave me just the right amount of extra work to kind of stay engaged through the beginning of the project, which I appreciated. So not only was I working through the raglan increases, but simultaneously working this detail through the yoke. So that made it a lot of fun. As far as yarn selection, I knew that Louis tends to be sensitive to woollier and toothier yarns, and so I wanted to select something that was superwash. That way it would be a little bit more tolerable for him to wear on a regular basis. So we landed on Cascade 220 Superwash, and from there he selected the colorway, which was this really beautiful blue color. And up close, let me show you here, and I'm not sure if it'll really actually show up on camera, but there is some really beautiful purple heathering throughout this yarn, and that really adds some dimension to the garment overall. So really loved it. Louis is very happy with it, and it was a fun project. I think that if you're in the market for a sweater for yourself, but especially for a gift knit for somebody, this pattern is a really good option because it's not just, plain stockinette. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you're looking to gift a garment that looks like you just kind of took it up a notch, this would be the one, because it has that textured detail at the top, and it just looks like you put maybe even just a smidge more effort in this, even though this texture was really not too complicated to work into the garment. So again, really recommend this pattern, and yeah, it turned out really great. My second finished object is really special to me. It's one that I will treasure and keep, not only because I really like the finished result of it, but also because of sentimental reasons. This is the Olga sweater by PetiteKnit, and this was my first ever buddy knit, but also my first ever buddy knit with Mel, my sister-in-law. Mel is a indie yarn dyer. She does hand-dyed yarn in Japan, and her brand is Big Little Yarn Co. Mel's been knitting and dyeing yarn for a long time. So she's my knitting inspiration, and it just felt so special to be able to share this buddy knit with her. just feels like a milestone in my knitting journey, and I really, really love that. So the Olga sweater, to get into the pattern itself, was actually a really fun project to work. I've seen this kind of all over social media. It's a very popular pattern these days. The striping is really fun. If you're looking to add additional color in your life, you can choose all kinds of fun, vibrant colors. And in my case, I decided I wanted to add, an interesting texture detail. So for my particular Olga, I chose 2 different kinds of yarn textures. One is a superwash yarn, which is worked kind of like the darker color. It is worked in the neckband and also the darker striping. This is Manos del Uruguay's Marla yarn, which is a superwash yarn. So it's smoother, very, very nice. It feels really nice. And it contrasts really well with the Suri DK that I have here as well by BlueSky Fibers. This is the lighter blue color that goes throughout, that gives this sweater a lot of like lightness and airiness and fuzziness, but also a ton of warmth. So this sweater is really, really great for kind of a nice light layering piece in the cooler weather. And I just kind of love that actually the Suri DK, it feels, yeah, there's definitely like a texture here. When you rub your hand through, you can feel that the Suri DK is a little bit lifted above the Superwash Merino, the Manos del Uruguay yarn. And it's just really satisfying. I had a lot of fun working this up and seeing the stripes come together and seeing the whole project just come together as well. This is my first striped pattern, and I'm happy to report that it will not be my last, because I had a very pleasant experience doing this, which is unsurprising because I was not intimidated going into this, knowing that it was a PetiteKnit pattern and knowing that I wouldn't struggle deciphering the pattern or finding resources or things online if there was ever something that I felt was unclear. So yeah, I didn't really come across any major hitches doing this project up, and really, really love it. So again, this is the Olga sweater by PetiteKnit, and I really will look back on this project fondly all the time because it was my first buddy knit with my sister-in-law Mel. Now for my third and final finished object. Here I have the Pelica vest by Rosa Pomar in this really wonderful kind of olive green color. This was a lot of fun to knit up. It's garter stitch throughout with I-cord edging, and it has buttons along the front. As you can see here, let me kind of bring it up so you can see the buttons and the garter stitch detail. But it is a really, really wonderful project to do. I did struggle a few times with the I-cord just because I wasn't super familiar with how to work those in certain parts of the pattern. But ultimately I figured it out. Thanks to YouTube. I combed the YouTubes for tips and tricks, and there are some channels out there that address some kind of common issues or causes for confusion. So thankfully those videos are out there and help me get through some of those issues that I came across. But I am a big fan of vests in general, which is why I went with this Pelica vest. And it is a really great layering piece. I followed this to pattern in a size 4, which I think was just too oversized for me, honestly. There's definitely a lot of extra fabric in the body section, so next time I knit this up, and there will be a next time because I really did like this pattern, I'll probably do a size 2 instead of a size 4. I did really like the yarn, and this is the suggested yarn. This is Rosa Pomar's Brusca yarn, which is really nice. I am a huge fan these days of the Retrosaria Rosa Pomar yarns. I feel like they just have a really great heft to them. They just feel substantial in hand. They have a great texture. This Brusca yarn is like perfectly woolly. It's not itchy, but it feels rustic without being uncomfortable. So I really enjoy this yarn and would opt to use it for future projects for other garments where it could be a good fit. So yeah, really love this. I really do love the button choice as well. This is the Scalloped Flowers button from Hall and Hoof Farms. And yeah, I'm a big fan of their buttons. They do all kinds of, they make buttons in all kinds of sizes, all kinds of materials. I've seen porcelain, I've seen wood. They have some natural material buttons as well that are really wonderful. So I would encourage you to check out their Instagram page and their website to comb through their selections. But beware, it is a slippery slope. Once you get on that website and you start seeing their selections, but I don't know, I at least got my imagination going when I was looking through all of those different options they had, and before I knew it, I was like flipping back and forth between their website and Ravelry and trying to figure out what projects could go with all these different buttons that I was liking. So warning there, you might like their buttons a little too much. But yeah, this was the Pelica vest, and was a really great project. Love the yarn, love the pattern, and it will not be my last Pelica vest. So that concludes my finished objects. Let's jump straight into works in progress. I have 2 whips to share, and the first is the Champagne Cardigan by PetiteKnit. I brought this project with me to Japan on my recent trip there, and got through a good amount of it on the plane there, on the layover, and at this point I have just split for sleeves, so I'm very excited. I really love this kind of light blue color. This yarn is a worsted weight yarn. This is Sandnes Garn Atlas. This would be the first time I'm working with this yarn, and I believe it's a relatively new release for them. This Atlas yarn, I believe, is supposed to fall somewhere between their Pure Gint and their Sunday line. This is 70% Norwegian wool and 30% merino. So it still retains some of that toothiness, but it's supposed to have a little bit of softness from the merino. And it certainly does feel like that composition is coming through when I'm working with it. It definitely has that more toothy Norwegian wool quality, but it's not itchy by any means, at least for me. And I'm finding that I'm generally somewhere in the middle as far as like tolerance to woolier or toothier yarns. So keep that in mind as I talk about these things. But yeah, I really like this so far. It's very straightforward. This project is. It's I think I've mentioned a raglan cardigan, and so I just at this point have to work through the body, have to get the sleeves done, and then it calls for a double knit button band as well. So very excited to work through that. But I think cardigans are such a great layering piece that this will be a really nice addition to my wardrobe. My second whip is the Freestyle shirt by Suzanne Muller, and this is a summer knit for me. I'm really excited. Obviously, it's a bright pink color that is totally giving me summer vibes. It's giving me hot girl summer. So very excited to test this out in the Southern California heat sometime in July and August to kind of put it to the test and see if it'll be a suitable garment for me here. This is a raglan t-shirt, as you can tell here. And I'm knitting this to be fairly oversized just so that it's going to be pretty breathable for me. And yeah, right now I have just split for sleeves as well on this project, so I'm making pretty good progress on it. As far as yarn choice, I'm using Land du Nord's soft Lino in this pink color, as you can see. And soft Lino is a DK weight yarn, so that's kind of why I'm questioning whether it might be a little too heavy for the summer. I was feeling like maybe a fingering weight yarn would be more appropriate for the hotter weather, but that might take a little too long. And also, this composition is 80% linen and 20% cotton. So I feel like even if the yarn weight is heavy, the composition will help it be kind of breathable and easy to wear. So right now, based on how it feels in hand, I am feeling optimistic that this will be a really nice garment for the summer. So I'm very excited to continue through the body, get the sleeves done, put on the neckband, and finally wrap up this garment so that hopefully by the next update here on YouTube, I can call this a finished object. And lastly, I just want to run through a few of my swatches, or recent swatches and recent acquisitions, starting with this book, which I think many of you have probably seen making the rounds on social media. This is the 52 Weeks of Sweaters by Lino Publishing, and as you can see here, I already have several patterns bookmarked. I think that there are really nice designs in this book, wide range of things from kind of more simple to more complicated. There's some color work in here. There's some cable projects in here. So this is a nice book to have. I was particularly drawn originally to the, I don't know how to pronounce it, Tyne sweater by Rebecca Clow, which is a raglan sweater. And I've already actually ordered some yarn for this thing because I love a good raglan sweater. Especially a raglan sweater where the designer is trying to be a little bit more creative with how the raglan stitches are worked. Here in particular, there is a half fisherman's rib at the raglan, so it adds a little bit of drama to this garment, and I am all for that. So hopefully, you know, at some point this year, I'll get through that garment. We're heading into summer, so I'm in no rush to really work through this project just yet. But I did put in an order for the Wool Dreamers Mota yarn in, I already have it here, as you can see in this green. That's going to go to a different project, but I have a sweater quantity of it in an orange color, just like what's shown in the pattern photos in the book, because orange is one of my favorite colors. So that's got to happen. But yeah, very excited. Happy to get through this book, maybe work a few of the patterns here within this year or possibly next year. So yeah, that is 52 weeks of sweaters. So moving on to some swatches here. The first one that I wanted to share with you all is this right here, which is a combination of two yarns. This is a combination of Purl Soho's Tussock, and then also Purl Soho's Spindle yarn. So Tussock and Spindle are both lace weight. Tussock is a 60% mohair, 40% silk composition. And then Spindle is, let's see here on Ravelry, I believe Spindle has a few different fibers running through it. So it's 80% merino wool, 10% cashmere, and 10% silk. I will say from experience that Spindle was challenging to cake up. And I don't know if this is user error, but as I was trying to cake up Spindle, it kind of snapped, it broke on me several times as I was trying to work it, and I don't know what I was doing wrong perhaps, but it was just not easy to get that into cake form. So I was not in a rush to start working with Spindle, but after audacity and determination to make it work, I finally got into cake form and decided that because Spindle seemed to be a little brittle, that if I combined it with Tussock, it could maybe be a pleasant knitting experience, and I found that to be true. So if you've ever worked with the Spindle yarn, please let me know what's your experience like. And if you haven't, but you're interested in working with it, I would recommend pairing it with a mohair that way, or something else. It is a lace weight yarn, so chances are you'll probably be holding it with something else, unless you're bold and you're doing actual like lace work with it. But yeah, I would highly recommend holding it with another yarn. That way it's you're giving it some strength, and it's not having to deal with all the tension by itself. So my plan for this particular yarn combination is to knit up the Roma vest by Mochi Knits. And so I swatched this with 4.5mm needles in the slip stitch pattern that the Roma vest calls for, and I really, really like it. I'm not sure if it's showing up on camera super well, and frankly, the slip stitch pattern isn't all that visible because I think the mohair kind of muddies the texture a little bit. So if you're really looking for that kind of pronounced slip stitch texture in this garment, I would recommend maybe not choosing a yarn that's got a ton of halo, otherwise it's going to be muddled. But here I'm okay with it. I just really, really love the texture. I love how this feels. I think it's really lightweight. And in person, I can definitely still get some of that slip stitch texture. So I'm happy with it. And I'm excited to work the Roma vest at some point this year. I think it's a great staple in the wardrobe. It's a great silhouette for a garment, and the slip stitch texture just gives it that extra detail that takes it up a notch. So yeah, definitely excited to work through this, and I have it on my Ravelry queue. And I think I haven't mentioned, but for any of these projects, whether it's a finished object or a whip or something on my queue, please take a look at my Ravelry page. I will have it linked below in the description. That way you can comb through the details, see what yarns I've mentioned here on YouTube, and see any kind of other project details that I may have omitted here that are actually indicated on the Ravelry page. Earlier in this video, I had alluded to a recent trip I took to Japan, and on that trip, like I mentioned, I hung out with family, and that included my sister-in-law Mel of Big Little Yarn Co. So Mel recently relocated her operation from a studio that she was renting or leasing into a studio space within their new home that they've moved into. So that's really cool that she can kind of work out of their house and be with the kids, be with the family. But the other perk is that when family's in town, family such as myself, she's able to show me her yarn dyeing operation there, and not only show me the yarn dyeing operation, but also offer to help me dye my own custom yarn. So here it is. Let me just show you the swatch. Super exciting. I just love that Mel was able to take some of my suggestions. She asked me in advance, like, hey, would you like to work on a custom yarn? I said, yeah, that would be amazing. And so she sent me her list of bases and then also asked me for what kinds of colors I wanted to run with. And so I sent her all that information. And from there, we just kind of worked through it. I told her it doesn't have to be exact. Those were all just kind of guidelines. And for the most part, my takeaway here is that I just feel like this is a great kind of sentimental piece for me, this yarn. Just, you know, being able to have that experience with Mel and to come out of it with something so special is really wonderful. So yeah, this is in Big Little Yarn Co.'s Polwarth DK base, which is really nice, super soft, and squishy, and I really like it. I've never worked with anything that had Polwarth in the composition, so this is really, really fun. My plan for now is to knit the All Season Vest by Noriko Ichikawa. I have about 400, I think it's 400, yeah, I did 4 skeins of this, 400 grams of this DK weight yarn. So I've identified a vest as a possible option here, but to you all, I would love to hear some suggestions, some other patterns that you think might work for this. I wanted to pick something that's got a pretty simple kind of basic silhouette that I could use to layer, which is why I landed at a vest, because this has a lot of colors in it, guys. So I wanted something that I could wear along with like maybe a solid color of some kind to maybe tone down the colors, or you know, have it be an accent piece as part of any outfit. So that's kind of, that was my thought process there, but I'm totally open to suggestions. And then also, no trip to Japan is complete without a stop at a yarn store, and the one we went to, Mel and I together, was a yarn shop in Kyoto called Walnut Kyoto, where I picked up 3 different kinds of yarn. And let me kind of run through, I've already swatched them all, and I want to run through my thoughts on them and share some of the projects that I do plan to work on with these yarns. So the first here is Amirisu Parade, which Mel recommended. She said that she knit up something for my brother in this yarn because he's super sensitive. And this is like, I guess, the only yarn that he can really tolerate so far. So that got me thinking, well, I need to try this, right? It's a very comfortable yarn. The composition seems to work well all year round because it has some plant-based fibers in it and some wool. So it feels like it'll be good for most days of the year. And let me just kind of pull up the composition here so I can share that with you guys. I'm running through my Ravelry page here so I can get you the details. But okay, this is 60% wool, 20% cotton, 10% silk, and then 10% linen. So it's got a fair amount of plant-based fibers in it, and I can tell based on how this feels that it definitely feels cooler than a fabric that is knit in pure wool, and it's really light. and really, really nice. It has great elasticity because of the wool. And I really, really like this color. It's kind of a, I don't know, like a brownish, grayish, purplish color. Very interesting. And yeah, I'm excited to knit this up. So far, what I've identified for this yarn is the Slatter Tee, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. I think it'll be a nice summer t-shirt yarn. So I will put that to the test and see if, or how this yarn performs in Southern California heat in the middle of summer, say around July and August. And once I knit this up, put it to the test, I will be back here to report my findings to you all. The second yarn I got from Walnut Kyoto is this one in this really beautiful, vibrant blue color, which I'm not sure is coming across accurately on camera. This is kind of like a royal blue on camera, but leaning more indigo purple. It's really, really beautiful. This is Illimani Sabri, which is, let me find the composition for you. This is also a fingering weight yarn that I plan to knit up as a summer garment. And the composition is, according to Ravelry, 85% cotton and 15% alpaca. So really great composition. The cotton, as you can imagine, gives it that breathability, that lightness for a summer garment, while the alpaca, the small amount of alpaca in here, gives it that fuzziness, that halo effect, that softness. So it's a really, really nice summer yarn. Right now, I've identified the cloud top for this yarn. I'm thinking something that's, you know, sleeveless, might be nice for the summer. Since it's such a bright blue color, I don't need to knit up something with sleeves. I think like a sleeveless garment would be a really nice accent piece if I wanted to throw it on top of a like white t-shirt or something, for instance, or even just wear it without a tee would be great too. So very excited to, you know, work up the garment with this really wonderful yarn. Let me just give you another close-up here of this yarn. It's super, super soft. The swatch itself is like really, really light. So I'm very optimistic to see how this works out. And then the last and final yarn that I purchased from Walnut Kyoto is this one by Amirisu. This is their Wanderlust linen in this fantastic green color. This is 100% linen. And I've never knit with something that's 100% linen. And so I was kind of surprised to feel the skein. It felt really rough and like really ropey. But my sister-in-law Mel had previously used this particular yarn, and she said that over time with wear, with wash, it softens up. And so, yeah, I was excited. I know that linen is one of the best fabrics and yarns for summer knitting. So I thought this would be a great yarn to use for some kind of a summer project. And I decided, this is a fingering weight yarn, so it's going to take a while probably to get a garment done with this. And I think while I was knitting the swatch, it took a little getting used to because I wasn't, you know, familiar with how to work with this 100% linen. Again, it felt really ropey. But after I got a hang of how it behaves, it became a lot easier to work with, and I don't feel like it'll be all that much of a challenge to work through a whole garment with this yarn. But I've identified the Linar Tee by Joanna Phillip for this project. because, you know, it's a nice t-shirt, and I think this green color will work really well with the shape of that garment. And so, yeah, that'll be one of my summer projects for this season. And now I just have 2 more swatches to share. I had mentioned earlier when I was talking about my Pelica vest that I really, really like the Rosa Pomar yarns. And so I couldn't stop there with Brusca. I had to get an order of their Mungo yarn, which is actually, I believe, let me double check here, but I believe it's about 50% cotton and 50% wool. And let me show you what I've swatched up here because I just find it to be so fun. Look at this. So my plan for this yarn is to knit up the Abbas vest, which is a pattern by Rosa Pomar, and it features this kind of basket weave stitch right here, which is so cool. At first I wasn't sure if I wanted to pick a yarn like this, which has kind of a marled multicolored effect. It's kind of a mixture of white and like a denim blue. That kind of leans gray. I wasn't sure if that multicolor yarn would distract from the texture here, but I think the texture still comes through. And on top of that, I get to use this really fun yarn as well. But like I mentioned with the Pelica vest, this Rosa Pomar yarn also has a really nice feeling to it. So it feels like a very substantial fabric once it's knit up. And that texture is what I really appreciate about these Rosa Pomar yarns. It feels like a substantial yarn. And it's by no means like thick, but I also wouldn't use this for like a t-shirt. Let me see, what is the gauge on this thing? Mungo. I think it's a little bit of a heavier gauge, so I probably wouldn't even use it for a t-shirt anyway. But let me find it here. Mungo is, yeah, this is a worsted weight yarn. So I would definitely use it for something like a vest or a sweater. And because it has 50% cotton, it's a really nice yarn to use if you're looking for something that could be appropriate for maybe all year round. This could be nice as a like a summer evening garment, I would say. If you're looking for, if you're in a part of the world where it gets a lot cooler in the summers, this would be a nice yarn to use. So I highly recommend it. As far as the swatch, I like as far as I can tell from the swatch, I like the yarn. But obviously that is still TBD because I can't form a fully, educated opinion until I've, knit up a full garment and put it to use and whatnot. But if this swatch is any indication of how I'm going to ultimately like this yarn, then I have a feeling I will really, really enjoy it. The last and final swatch I want to share is also Rosa Pomar's Mungo, but it's in a different colorway. This one is it's got like some orange in there, some white, and again some like denim blue that leans gray. So this is a really, really fun colorway and one that I don't see very often. This one I do plan to knit up. I think I already have the pattern identified in my queue for this one. Yeah, I plan to do the Hannah Sweater V-neck by PetiteKnit, and I think because it's a stockinette V-neck sweater that it'll really allow this yarn color to stand out. So I'm very excited about it, and I can't wait to knit that up. So again, thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. Please feel free to take a look at my previous videos. again, going forward, I will be doing different videos for different topics. So while this one is all knitting focused, I will be sharing videos about other things like fragrance in separate videos if you're interested in that. So thanks again for tuning in, and I hope to see you in the next one.